Hi everyone, my name is Kimberly Simon and I am VP of Marketing and Strategic Partnerships at Control Case. A lot of you probably have not heard about Control Case, so we'll be learning a little bit about cybersecurity and compliance. This conference has been a lot of information about big data and all these solutions that you have on how we can learn from data. This presentation helps you start thinking about privacy and security of that data. So kind of like going to a restaurant, you want to make sure that you have some things that you're trusting that they'll do. They're going to cook your food, they're not going to spit in it, all those things. People are trusting you with their data, your clients are trusting you with their data, your employees are trusting you with their data. So what are you and your team looking at from a data security perspective? So if we can bring up the slides. Seem to be having some technical difficulties. How many of you guys, while we're waiting for the slides to come up, how many of you guys know about security compliance as part of what you're doing with your company? Great. You'd be surprised. So this session is called Winning the War with Cybersecurity, How Compliance Frameworks Can Help. We're going to focus mostly on compliance frameworks. I'm sharing my details. I love to grow my network, so please keep my details. Would love to add you on LinkedIn. You'll come up with questions after this session, so please feel free to just email me and let's stay in touch. So here's our agenda for today. We'll start at looking at the target. We said this is a war with cybersecurity, so who is the target? We'll look at what compliance is. A lot of people think compliance and security are the same thing. They're really not. I'll tell you about that. And we'll look at how you're currently arming your company and shielding your clients. Then finally, I'll give you some ammunition tips for the war. Whether you choose to use them or not is up to you. But here's the thing. You've been a target all along. So the target is you. What's happening is they want to steal information and you're trying to take care of it. So who's they? Cyber criminals. We live in a dual world, you guys know that. The physical world, where you and I are, and the digital world. And just like in the physical world, there's a lot of cybersecurity threats that we need to be aware of when we're dealing with big data, when companies are trusting us, when we're building our solutions. We need to be thinking about privacy and security. So these threats are growing and ever evolving. So if you are ignoring cybersecurity, you're costing us because you're giving cyber criminals something to do. So how are people getting into your network? How are these cyber criminals getting in and creating problems? There's a report that IBM produces every single year. So this is 2022, showing how cyber criminals are getting into our networks. In fourth place, we have vulnerabilities in third-party software. We all use some sort of third-party software. When was the last time you made sure that you're using the correct version? Typically what happens is when a third-party software provider updates their software, it's because they're addressing some vulnerabilities that they've found security-wise. Are you guys making sure that you are using the current version? Do you have processes to make sure that for the software that is approved in your company, everybody within the company is using the current versions? In third place, we have cloud misconfiguration. A lot of us are in the cloud. If you've looked at the vendors upstairs in the exhibition hall there, everybody's moving to the cloud. And there's some great benefits to doing so, even security benefits. But it doesn't mean that cybersecurity and data protection is out of the window. You still have to have a cybersecurity program. And then in first and second place, we have compromised credentials and phishing. Can you imagine in 2022, cyber criminals are still getting into our networks through phishing. Phishing is when your employees are tricked into sharing vulnerable information or credentials that allow the bad guys in. So how is this still happening? It's because we're not sharing information. We're not teaching each other what's going on. If you get nothing else from this entire speech today, is that we need to start having different conversations as a leadership team. We need to start having different conversations with our teams and sharing risk. Cybersecurity and privacy is everyone's concern. It's everyone's problem. So we need to be having conversations that show that. So let's look at what ransomware looks like. I like to tell this story. It's so good, trust me. So think of ransomware working as you live at your house. I hope you live in a home. You live at your, otherwise this won't work. You live at home and someone sneaks into your house and you have no idea that they're there. They set up shop somewhere in your house. They live there for up to 8 months. You have no idea that they're living there. Every time you leave your house, when you're distracted, they're looking at your personal information. They're going through your family sensitive data. They're looking at all your stuff and copying some of it. And one day you leave like a normal day and you come back and you cannot enter your house. And they tell you you have to pay them to come back in. That's how ransomware works. Whether you choose to pay the ransomware or not, or whether you choose to ignore it, it's a problem that we cannot ignore. When you start to share the risk, you say it like that to your team. So you say, hey guys, what would it look like if this company was to be breached? Would we be able to fulfill on our contracts? Because if you're, for 84 days, that's an average of how long it takes to contain a breach. So you have a problem and it's going to take you almost 3 months to fix it. So in 3 months, you cannot deliver on the services, you cannot work properly. So what does that look like for your company? Would it even survive? Some companies completely close down after a data breach. So the idea is sharing this risk with the team and saying, okay, would you still expect your clients to stay? You're probably going to lose a few clients. Would you still expect your sales team to close contracts? Probably not. Would you expect a pay rise? How would that affect your bonus? When you start talking about cybersecurity as if this company was breached, it's a problem for all of us, then it's a completely different conversation, and how your team is going to receive it is different. Because what will people do? Whatever they can. So people will leave their laptop unattended at a conference like this. I don't mean you, I'm joking. But people will leave their laptop unattended. People will forget to patch a software. All of this can cost you money. When you start to share information such as this, and you're saying, hey, when you lose a laptop and it's got sensitive data on it, or it's got details about our software, or it's got details about our solution, or about our clients, it could potentially cost us up to $1 million. And when you forget to patch your software, it can cost us up to $150,000. When you're sharing that information with your team, and they're understanding the risk and that we're all sharing it, then hopefully when you're implementing your security program, there's less pushback. So what do you want to address? You always want to start with people. If we've learned anything from being at this conference is, as much as we're using technology to make our lives easier, we still need people. So you always want to share knowledge and get the buy-in and understanding for compliance for everybody. I'm gonna quickly ask you, show of hands, how many of you guys take an annual cybersecurity awareness test at your company? Great, a lot of you. So a lot of people do that. And then you understand your cybersecurity processes, and as much as you can, you are using technology and AI to drive efficiency, to provide more accurate reporting, and basically make your life easier. How many of you know about compliance? Gosh, does anybody want to join me? It looks like it looks like you guys know a lot about compliance. So I want to talk about the difference between security and compliance. So compliance, I know you already know, but it's in my slides, so we have to go through it. Compliance is the conformance to a particular set of standards or requirements, for those of you that did not raise your hands. In this context, compliance aims to secure data, so that's lowering your risk, and improve your privacy, so protecting people's information. So at the core of compliance, it's really around security and privacy. Security is the act of doing. So security is everything that you're already doing. Your two-factor authentication, your vulnerability scanning, your penetration testing, all those great things that you're doing to protect data, to protect your clients, that's security. Compliance is the act of assessing what you're doing against the set of standards. So if you start to think of compliance as being a complement to your security program, then now you start to understand where compliance can come in. So the aim that compliance can have is to identify gaps within your security program and to help increase the confidence of yourself, because you're protecting yourself, your job, your family, And then you're also protecting your employees, your team. You're also protecting your clients. So it provides confidence that you've done all this. When you go through a compliance assessment, typically it's done by an assessor firm or an auditor, security auditor. And essentially what you do want it to happen that way because they are a new set of eyes. They provide clarity, they provide help and support for remediation on any gaps that you may have found in your cybersecurity program. So as much as you can, you do want a third party to come in and do that audit. So there are different cybersecurity frameworks. Regulations are stuff that you have to do by law. So GDPR for Europe, CCPA, California. And you have standards. These are industry best practices that a lot of you already are doing or have heard of. And then you have certifications. The problem with having a security program and not doing compliance is that you can have a program, but how do you prove that you have it without some sort of documentation? So this is where your risk assessment comes in. This is where your cybersecurity certification comes in. This is where your audit report comes in. And there's so many different cybersecurity frameworks that you can get certified to. And they aim to do different things. We find that a lot of companies struggle to figure out where they fall in terms of, hey, which cybersecurity framework do I need to adopt? If you had a conversation with your operations team or your sales team, they would tell you that they're having these conversations with clients. Clients are asking them, do you have a SOC 2 report? Do you have a PCI DSS compliance certification if they're taking payments? But the idea is to understand the kind of data that your company comes into contact with and how you're protecting it, and then obviously proving to your clients that you've had a third party come in and assess that that has been done properly. So what you can start to look at is, hey, this is the type of data that we have that we're trying to protect. This is the region that we're in. This is the industry that we serve. And then based on that, you'll see the frameworks that are available for you to adopt for a cybersecurity assessment. Most companies will find that there's multiple frameworks that can apply to them. And it helps to get a couple of them. And there's ways that we use technology to go through one assessment and certify you to multiple regulations. So there's two types of companies that we find when we're going through a cybersecurity audit. So there's that first company that looks at their cybersecurity assessors, the cops. They're like, oh, those guys are coming in. They're going to come in and point out all these things that we're doing wrong. They're going to point out all these things to my manager and my team and then create a lot of busy work, and we don't really like them. Those companies tend to only care about compliance and in some cases cybersecurity as a one-time thing. That time in the year where they are having to go through the assessment is where they care that they're doing the right thing. Problem is, as soon as the assessor leaves, they free fall back to what they were doing and they fall out of compliance and put the company at risk. And then you have the second company, which is my favorite. I should have put my picture there, I just thought about it. But the second company is a company that looks at their cybersecurity assessor as a consultant, as a partner that is there to point out gaps and help you improve your cybersecurity program. They understand why it's being done. It's to lower risk, protect their jobs, protect their families. So they're more likely to take part. So perception is key. When you're delivering the cybersecurity message as in, hey guys, we need to care about cybersecurity, we need to care about privacy. When you're delivering that message, perception is key. So if you start to make it look like, hey, we're going to create busy work, it's going to be painful, it's like the cops coming in, or it's going to be, hey, we could bringing in some consultants in here to help us improve our cybersecurity maturity, our privacy program. They're going to help lower our risk. They're going to help us access insurance easier. They're going to help us attract more clients because they're going to verify that we have a great cybersecurity program. When you change the narrative like that, then the conversation is completely different and people start to care about cybersecurity. So why compliance? Why are we having this discussion about compliance? Compliance standards are based on actual evolving threats. I know you guys are busy. There's so much, you're dealing with a lot of data. So how do you keep track of all the cybersecurity threats and risks that are there? Compliance frameworks can help you with that. A lot of you know that compliance frameworks are typically updated on an ongoing basis, and they tend to look at what's going on in the industry, and that helps you stay on track with that. Compliance will point out gaps and things that you need to do to improve your cybersecurity program. So based on that, you can start to see, hey, these are my lowest hanging fruit, and this is what I'm going to need to fix first to lower my risk, and then work through closing all those gaps. And finally, compliance can be used to measure the security of any type of data. So we can help you figure out, what cybersecurity framework you need to comply with and how that can serve you. How are you currently arming your company and shielding your clients? Let me ask you this, and it works better if you imagine it. If there was to be a risk, a data breach today, so there's risk in your company, there's risk in every company. So there was a data breach with your company today. Is there a chance that it could be because of you? I hope the answer is no, but if the answer is yes, only you know. Is there a chance that the data breach could be because of someone in your team? And if you're thinking, okay, there's been a data breach, is there things that you would have done differently? Would you have educated your team more? Would you have educated yourself? Would you have shared more resources on security? If you're thinking yes, then why aren't you doing those things today? I hope that as you leave this place today, you start to think about sharing more information on security and privacy with your teams and getting them to buy in on everything that they need to do. I want to give you some ammunition for winning the war with cybersecurity. This is going to be the last section of I want to leave a lot of time for us to address any questions that you guys may have. So first things first, cybersecurity is a process and compliance can help. You will never get to a point where you can say, hey, we're secure now, let's all sit back and drink mimosas. You will always have evolving threats, and you always need to keep track of your cybersecurity program, and compliance can help you do that. You need to understand the goal. So if you're sitting here and you're thinking, wow, we need to start doing more in our cybersecurity program, then you're living in a culture of fear and uncertainty. And the idea is to help you move out of there. You need to move out of there, and how do you do that? By educating yourself and educating your team. And that is where that culture of awareness kicks in. You start with your risk assessment. You then start looking at, hey, these are the things that we need to do. These are the gaps that we need to close. And if you're doing all those things, security, remember the act of doing, then you're living in a culture of awareness. Where we want you to get to is to live in a culture of measurement, where now you're using compliance to measure the strength of that cybersecurity program. So remember the two companies we spoke about? The ones that look at their assessor as the cops and the ones that look at their assessor as a consultant. How they look at compliance is also different. So the less mature program, the one that looks at their assessors as a cop, they just think this is something we need to do. We have a budget for it. It helps us reduce risk. It's on paper. We need to do it. And then you have the more mature security program where it's built and it's solid. It may not match exactly what they had on paper when they were working on the blueprint, but they actually bothered to now build this cybersecurity program and work on it. And that company is more mature in terms of their security. So process and routine can be rewarding. So as much as you can, instead of pushing the message that, hey, we have to care about security, and oh, it's a headache, and oh, this is something that's going to add work for people. If you share that, hey, because we have a great cybersecurity program and we've started measuring it, we can now report back on the efficiencies that we have. So because of our great cybersecurity program, we close tickets in half the time. We identify threats as soon as they happen. We're able to look at threats and not only just know that they're happening, but also close them and remediate much faster. When you share the efficiencies that the company is benefiting from because of the efficiencies of a security program, then you're better off with getting that buy-in. So here are some final points on an effective compliance program. So first things first, Get as many stakeholders on as you can. A lot of your companies already have somebody that owns the security program. So make sure that there's always information sharing happening. And then you want to drive compliance goals that vary as your security matures. Your company is not static, neither should your security program be. So you should always be looking at how you can grow your program. And as you're making changes to your solutions, collecting more data, and adding new people to the team, working remotely, all of that privacy and security should always remain as part of your concern. And then you want to use the skills of your staff. So what you'll find when you are looking in the cybersecurity world, and I'm pretty sure even in your AI world as well, it's very difficult to get good resources. And that is a problem across the industry, across many industries. So if you can start to teach your own team to care about security and invest in teaching them, then you'll have a better workforce that cares about security. And then you want to build a compliance program that is geared towards continuous compliance. So as we said, security is not a one-time thing. Security is ongoing, and you should constantly be looking at improving your cybersecurity program. And wherever you can, you are going to use your security program to show that you care about privacy and attract new clients, attract stakeholders, attract investors. Every time you show that you care about cybersecurity, then you are attracting more stakeholders. The key requirements for success are continuous, so it's not a one-time thing. Automation, I'm preaching to the choir with that one. You know how technology can help build more efficiencies. And then integration. So as you're building your solutions, please do not let cybersecurity and privacy be an afterthought. Security should be something that you're thinking about as you're building the solution, as you're updating the app, as you are collecting more data. So it should be integrated with everything that you're doing as a business. So security strategy comes from many places, and compliance is definitely one of them. There's a lot of places that your security program is going to draw strength from, and compliance is definitely one. I want to end this by giving you a quick story. This is about a friend of mine and his wife. They decided to grow zucchini. I know, right? Zucchini. I need new friends. So they decided they were going to grow zucchini. They said they had no idea how challenging this was going to be for them. So they started their garden, and they quickly realized that zucchini grows fast. So they have to harvest a lot of times, sometimes twice a week. The weeds grow, so they had to just keep an eye on it. And he said sometimes he would get to the garden, and if he had forgotten to pick a ripe zucchini, it would have grown as big as his foot, and they're quick to just rot as well. So he said, but when he thought about it, he said, as a good gardener, nothing in my garden should surprise me. When I decided to start a garden, I should have expected weeds. When I planted something, I should have expected it to grow. So everything that I have to do around it should not be a surprise to me. If as a good gardener, I am surprised by anything, it means I'm just a bystander or an observer. I ask you the same thing for your cybersecurity and compliance programs. When you decided to join the digital world, you should have expected there was going to be risk. And it is your responsibility to address that risk. So it should not surprise you that you have to care about security, you have to care about compliance. And are you being a good gardener, or are you just an observer? Don't be an observer. Sharing my details again, I hope we stay in touch. I want to stop there and give you some time to ask some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you.